Hey guys,
Hello.
hello. Say hello guys.
Yo!
Hi guys, my name is Zaun and this is Level Up Geek Night. Say hi. Woo!
Say hi, say hi.
Surprise! Surprise talaga. Surprise not surprise. So,
Surprise.
tonight we are talking about Arcane Season 2. Medyo late into the game but okay lang, maganda. It's such a good series that it's worth watching many times. Do you guys agree?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, it's worth watching many times, but I don't think my heart can watch it that many times.
Oh
I
yeah.
watched it
well,
twice on the release day and then another time the day after.
yes.
So I have watched it many
Depende na
times.
lang sa puso mo. Depends
Watch
on your
parties.
heart.
I blame watch parties. Ow.
Yeah.
Totoo,
It's
totoo.
good.
So again, my name is John B, and I am the Christian Geek, and we are with Level Up, and you are together with me, with our CEO, Boss Man John. Say hi, John.
What's up?
Together again.
And we have below me is the geek himself, the geeks, Vince. How's Hey,
Excuse me, sir.
how?
I'm not below you. In the
Nakarabaw, di ba? To 10.
Joke lang.
In the camera,
On
I'm
the
below you.
on the camera,
Sadly
you're below me, but we are all equal. Yes.
We're all equally terrible.
Yes.
But in the community, mas mataas si Vince sa akin kasi mas kilala siya. Yes.
No?
He has a wide face.
Grabe! Wala akong kilala.
I don't know
Oh
what
my
to do with being kilala.
Are you commenting
okay.
on my face?
No. Okay, in Japanese, when you
But-
say you have a wide face, it means you're famous.
Actually, totoo. Totoo, iba yung meaning nun.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, no, sidetrack
Sobrang
into
meta lang statement. Anyway.
Okay, anyway.
And of course,
Anyway.
last but definitely not the least, the cosplay queen of the group. Wow. Cosplay queen.
Queen.
Of the
Princess,
group. Of the group.
princess.
Of
Yung
the group.
magsasalita.
Harry.
Yung pusa.
Yung pusa.
Yung pusa yung cosplay queen, ha?
Yes, yung pusa yung cosplay queen.
Alright. So, we're talking about Arcane Season 2. And if you have not watched Arcane yet, this is your spoiler warning.
Yes.
So,
It's your spoiler warning. We are gonna dive.
Die.
deep dive into the characters, into the situations, into the story, and perhaps we might find God. So, take it
Yes.
away, John, our moderator for this evening.
Right. So, this is our LUGN deep dives where we, as a group, as friends, we like unpack what we like about a show, what is the show, what we like about the show, the characters, but also how do we think we can learn from the show and what can we take away from it. So for tonight, we're gonna start off with. Well, I mean it's season 2, so what is Arcane? Siguro, like just for people who like, what are we talking about?
Oh, the misery.
Sino gusto mag?
Everybody wants to be
Everybody wants to be an enemy.
my enemy.
Oh my god! Yes. So if you haven't heard, that's one of the songs playing right now because of Arcane, keeping Imagine Dragons relevant in 2024.
The song, what was it? Someone told me like Imagine Dragons are the perfect make the perfect songs to teach 7-year-olds so they can scream individual words at the top of their lungs. 'Cause everything's
Yeah,
really
I
slow.
guess that is technically correct. Right.
So what is
But
Arcane?
yeah, so what is Arcane? That is the question. I normally do the brain download stuff, but I do want to give you guys the chance to do it. If someone wants to tell people like, oh, what is Arcane? Anong feel niyo?
I was trying to remember what the name of the indie studio, right? Like Arcane is like was a series that was developed by like an indie studio.
Yung C4 Teach, right?
Yes, and like I'm just a fan of like the art style. It's like painted,
It is
It
a
has a very
French
painted-
company, yes.
and
It's
it
a
basically
fromage company.
yes, it basically focuses on characters that were taken from the League of Legends universe, and then like they've now expanded it towards like having their own, I guess, Netflix universe for the show.
Yeah, Netflix universe, which due to its popularity, Riot has decided that Arcane would now become the Prime universe.
Right,
And
ba?
they will. It's now the main canon, and they will now be aligning from
Stories
here on out
towards it.
everyone else how to incorporate the game heroes of all of their League of Legends IP. So
Yes.
canonically, you do play. So if you play League of Legends, some of the characters are canonically dead, as far as the Prime timeline is concerned.
Also, hence why certain characters will now actually be changed in game to reflect the Arcane timeline.
That's true, which is fine because like they can still sell their skins because in a different universe this person's still alive. Here, buy their skin. Or
Actually,
something
ganda
like
nga
that.
ng ano, if you think about it, now the skins are like alternate timelines.
Yeah, they are.
Exactly.
So it's like saying, do you wish this character were alive? Well, if you buy the skin, they're alive for you now.
Oh,
Terrible.
Or like, do you wish this character was a K-pop star? We have it available.
It's interesting
No.
because technically in the game's development,
Yeah.
it felt like a lot of the lore was secondary to the characters. Like a lot of times you like just get a vibe of who the character is, and then
That's
the
true.
lore around them kind of just becomes an addition to like, oh, this character looks cool, they have cool abilities, I want to play them, and then I'll figure out like generally
are.
how they relate to everything else. Like those are just like bonuses. But now because of the show, it's kind of become more like you get the effect of the other way around. The stories are so relevant that sometimes you're compelled to want to play the characters,
Hmm.
even if you know you might be really bad at them.
Well, yes, and or sometimes like watching them, it's like, oh, that's how it feels like. So you kind of learn how to think and put yourself into their vibe. So I don't know. Sometimes it works out. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyways,
It's-
so
it's
yeah,
like
so
a-
Arcane, just to recap, uh, uses famous League of Legends character, which is a really popular video game. By now, people should be aware of that, hopefully. But and then naging canon na siya due to its huge popularity, which they didn't expect. Um, that it would be such a huge hit, but it did. It became such a huge hit that they decided like, oh, okay, I guess it's canon now, which is funny, right? So yun na yun.
Yes, and basically, you start season one of Arcane like centered around like the two sisters, Jinx and Vi. Like it
Yes.
starts from like when they were growing up. How to even TLDR it? Because like I'm not thinking of like the orbs and the heist and like Echo, and I was like, oh god, that's not so long. But
I think it really it revolves around the ano eh, parang the socio-economic class structure, the parang struggle between the poor people or the what do you call that? I wouldn't say abuse, but
Zonites.
the Zonites who are described mostly as being underprivileged, while we have versus the economically rich and vibrant Piltover. So and parang
Yeah.
the class divide parang defines the characters as well in this which centers around these two sisters, no? So and it's interesting kasi parang ako personally I'm not I did not have a lot of working knowledge of League of Legends, and so
Yes.
parang primarily because I did not have any lore to begin with.
Yeah.
Parang wala
You
akong
were
masyadong lore.
you were also not into the game.
So parang, kasi one of the things that brings me into a game is usually lore eh. So if it has a rich, deep lore, then I might play a game even if it's not my genre. So, hindi ako
To
masyado,
be
pero,
fair,
yeah.
to be fair, League had a very messy lore at the start.
Yes, yes.
Kasi, basta yung origins niya is it's a MOBA. They didn't really think about the lore too much. They were just like, Let's
Very
just
much
find a
that.
reason for all of these guys to be
The
fighting.
lore constantly evolves and changes as they introduce new characters, because now they have like, okay, so in that lore that we presented previously, this character also exists, and now it's like we're enhancing, or we're like enhancing this portion of that lore and this portion of that lore. So a lot of it sometimes feels like puzzle pieces are coming into play as they
Yeah,
release new characters.
Which is
pretty
now
much. That is how it
interesting.
went. That's
Which is
true.
now interesting is because after watching Arcane, I started playing TFT, which is the auto battler of League of Legends,
Right.
which is one of the things that it keeps me occupied, and I'm enjoying it when I see certain characters come up because I know this character, I know their story. So it
Right.
engages
Right.
me, and it's actually the only reason I haven't played Wild Rift yet or League of Legends itself is because I know that it will be a time sink for me as well. So I'm like, let me hold off for now. But
That's true.
it's actually something that I'm also interested in really getting to learn. It's just when it was first introduced to me, wow, too many characters, I'm lost.
Yeah, and there are a lot of really interesting characters. So Arcane is really the first time na talagang they really went very very deep into a character. Um,
Not really. I would disagree with the first time.
oh
Kasi
well,
before Arcane came out, with Riot was already establishing the universe. They already have
Well,
what
yeah.
you call universes, which
Right.
is Riot's way of fixing or working on the lore of of their games. The thing about that is that um, it didn't it was not as well accepted compared to how Arcane did.
Mm.
Kasi nga people don't like, number one, people don't like to read. Number two, people are, what's the term? People didn't like to read and people were too lazy, basically. That's why we've had content creators like the crit people like the crit
Mm.
who became famous by creating yung content that we have,
Lore channel.
lore channel. It's because of that. So parang that's why now the changes to the whole League of Legends. What Riot did is that they made everything canon nga, as they said earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Pero
think it's also I don't how do you put this? It's not only that like like you say people don't like to read. I guess I kind of get that. Like you can also say, for example, like Magic the Gathering, for example, has a lot of lore in their website also that they put out. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's just like there is no cohesive way to put everything together. Like those stories end up like short stories that are just okay. This is
Yeah.
one story and this one story, so it's not really a full piece in it itself. So
Mm.
it's like you're getting chunks. It's not a book. So like if you're a book, you're following the progression of one story in a linear manner, wherein
Yeah.
you have bits of just like pages of things that are just like they don't read as well, and they don't it's not as enjoyable and entertaining to consume. So
I
they
mean,
found a medium to present that to a wider audience. That even if, say, for example, you're not playing the game, is compelling.
Mm.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
that's really why.
if that's the, I mean, we have novellas and the recent
Yeah.
stories na rin eh.
Oh.
Kasi I had John review some of those
Yeah,
himself.
true. Pero those came out later din. So
Yeah.
parang basically
Google.
yung League
Turn
of
on the AC.
Legends started out as having a very thin lore,
Google.
and it
Turn
only
on the
started adding to lore stuff later on, of which Arcane was one of their lore entries.
Mhm.
And it,
Mhm.
it took off, it exploded in a huge way, and I think that was also roughly the same time that Riot started investing in a lot of its
Lores.
alternate content, alternate lores, and all the rest. So parang dun lang siya, parang it came together with its expansion.
Yeah, I mean, technically, League of Legends first came into the being from 2009 as a spin-off of like Dota. So with 17
Right.
champions, and now you have like 150 plus or something. Nearly
Yeah.
200.
Yeah, now we
Dota
have a
Yeah.
huge number of characters, which a lot of people are like, "Oh, where's this character? Where's that character?"
It's also the same way in the other way around. It's like as a newbie to League, and I watched Arcane. I'm like, is this character in the game? Is this character in the game? Is this character in the game?
It's the opposite, right? So there's a lot of characters from the show who aren't in the game, and vice versa. Literally dozens, if not hundreds. So some characters in the show are kind of like homages to characters in the game, like the certain
Mhm.
designs, I think, and vice versa. So
And in some
hopefully the
regards, like
sequel.
the show might be the intro to some characters being introduced in the game, which is also like a first for
Hmm,
uh, Riot, actually. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a very living world that we're seeing being built. It's a world that is getting larger from its own how do you say uh
Content, I guess. It's like
yeah
feeding itself.
I
Yeah.
guess content is the
Yeah.
only way. Yeah, it's feeding on itself, and it's enlarging its own stuff. So a few other things siguro for us to share, like, okay, so the lore is in the website content. There are
Mhm.
some comics. There are some novels, novellas. Arcane is the big lore ticket right now. There's a lot of lore in its other games. So yung main game, of course, League of Legends PC and Wild Rift on the mobile. Then there's what John mentioned, yung TFT, Teamfight Tactics, yung Auto Battler. There's a lot of bits there. Um, Legends of Runeterra
The
also had
card
a lot
game.
of lore. Yeah, the card game, the digital card
That's
game.
where they used to, that's what they used to build in lore, actually.
Yeah, they
For
developed a lot of
your,
the world lore there. There are other stuff coming out then.
for
We
yung mga
do,
Riot Forge games, don't forget.
yeah, there were a bunch of Riot Forge games. Unfortunately, Riot Forge now is what
Dead.
discontinued. So that is a very unfortunate thing. But I don't know. We'll see. What other contents they have.
And then, based on the co-creator of Arcane, they're also planning to release other additional animation. It might not necessarily be under the Arcane name anymore, but it's going to be in the same universe that will tackle the bigger world of Runeterra and the other League of Legends champions.
Mhm.
Because out of the 150, how many were just mentioned or used in the series, right?
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
um,
Medyo konti lang.
that which is for me, that's something that I'm looking forward to as someone who loves lore and loves stories. So it's really interesting, and I think it's also important for us to differentiate because we're gonna talk about season 2 of Arcane
Hmm.
because season 1 came out like 3 years ago,
Yep.
2 3 years ago to 2021 during the pandemic, and I think that
Uh,
contributed to the popularity of the show. But at the same time, it was touted as first best one of the first and best video game adaptations, no? So
Ah.
in a long while, or if ever, because
I
usually,
I agree. It's a contender definitely for
yes.
an excellent video game adaptation.
And then, so we mentioned, I mean, Eri mentioned earlier that that Arcane revolves around these two girls, but I think season 2 kind of expanded
Mm,
it's
yes.
not no longer centered around the two. I would say that it's even more centered around two two guys who
Mhm.
broke up. No, just kidding.
Yes, because I think also, as you mentioned, like the central theme of the first season was
Yeah.
very much like power dynamics between the classes and all that. But season 2 also seems to expand that concept towards like a greater, more like, I would say, philosophical ideation of like life and reality. I guess.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if like life has any meaning or purpose,
Yes.
like, and then but the meme goes is like it's about two guys in a bromance who broke up and made that made their breakup a problem for everybody else.
That is very definitely meme energy.
Yes, very meme energy there.
Very meme energy.
Which is like
So
it's not so far from the truth.
it's not so far from the truth, but it still misses the truth, I would say.
Yeah, I
But
would
I
say
do
too,
agree that
yeah.
I do agree that season 2 basically kasi so in season 1 you had the contrast between Piltover and Zaun, the rich city and the poor city, class differences and so on. And it was represented by a set of characters from Piltover and a set of characters from Zaun. Um, More primary were the characters from Zaun because well, that was the one where you had more of an
Drama.
investment in with the characters,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then parang somewhat secondary yung characters from Piltover. So the Zaun characters mainly would be Vi and Jinx, the sisters, right? But strong supporting characters would be like Echo, Vander, and the rest of the community characters. Piltover would have Jace and Victor as your main duo with very strong supporting roles from si Heimerdinger, si Mel, and
Si
so
Caitlyn.
on. And Caitlyn, yes.
Don't forget Caitlyn.
So the thing is, yeah, of course not. So they all kind of mesh together as the series goes on. Yung interactions between Piltover and Zaun. And in season 2, what we have, kasi at the end of season 1, spoilers of course, like Jinx ends up shooting a huge rocket bomb at the council when they're just about when they were gonna decide to declare peace or like attempt to come together with Zaun, right? So the entirety of season 2 kind of takes those themes from season 1. It maintains like a personal feel, but it also expands it in a more like the global thing.
Mhm.
It hints at the wider world, and it hints at the wider world both on a horizontal and vertical level. And what I mean by this is horizontal mean literally just the space. Like, oh, there is a wider world. It's not just these cities. There's a bigger country. We saw that because of Noxus, because of yung si Ambessa, and then the politics that she brings in. And on a higher level, we see it because of the Arcane itself.
Mhm.
Diba? So we come into like cool cosmic magical powers and all that. Time and space and whatnot start to come into play. So that is Arcane season 2 is heavily about that.
Mhm.
I would say as well that much of the drama in season 2 is also driven by number one, the circumstances they are being put in because of all the what's going on, like at the finale of season 1 where where the council was bombed. Of course, the rise of the anomaly, Arcane, all of these things are circumstances that were happening but also how the characters themselves respond to those circumstances. Yun yung drive, makikita mo na drive that's happening within the stories of parang hindi naman mangyayari to kung hindi naman nag-respond yung isang character. Yung parang ganun, may mga ganun kasi na situations eh.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Or hindi naman mangyayari to kung hindi naman nangyari tong situation na to. It's like a chain of events that culminates in this, and I think this is where it's such a good study on parang there are responses and reactions and how they affect future circumstances.
I also find it very interesting in that like you mentioned, right? Like how season 1 was very much Zaun versus Piltover vibes. It was a lot of like it felt like Zaunites blamed Piltover for the oppression of their people, and then Piltover was afraid of Zaun because of like how unruly it is, and then like all of this like the crime that happens there. So you see these two forces fighting each other, and in season 2 what ends up happening is that like the introduction of like a third force, so to speak, because like they're trying to solve their problems because they think the other party is the issue. They're like, we're like this because they
We're
did
like
this
that.
to us, kind of vibe, right? And so in season 2, what happens is that it's like in a way, Victor introduces this third aspect of like, what if there's a way where we solve all our problems, kind of like a vibe. It's like he feels like all of these things that are happening, there's another thing that's causing it. Like it's human nature in itself that's giving us our problems. And so I'm going to try to solve it this way because I feel like that this is how we end everyone's suffering. which is a very interesting concept.
That's true.
Parang in the end, no, the two original factions have to come together in order
face
to
a third
face
enemy.
a third bigger enemy.
That is true.
And in a way, you're able to solve the conflict of the first season by introducing this other concept in the second, which is interesting also in itself. That you find that, like, which also generally happens a lot. The way to get over your conflicts is to realize that, there are other things that you can face together. Or you need to in order to be able to overcome other things.
If we hold on together.
Not exactly wrong, no.
Yeah. Sometimes all we need is like perspective. Sometimes it's that, like, we're caught in a certain mindset, and yet it's something like something just needs to be able to, something needs to be introduced in order to allow us to get a different perspective.
Ano nga yung sorry, I'm gonna take something from Wicked.
Sure.
Wicked spoilers ba?
Something that binds together, parang in Wicked meron sinabi na statement, it's I don't think it's spoiler naman, pero parang sinabi na parang one way to bind people together is to introduce a different villain. To introduce a villain. So in a sense, ganun na nangyari.
Common enemy tends
it
to
caused
help
the people of Zaun and Piltover to come together, even begrudgingly, because they found a common enemy. They found a common cause to fight together. Parang ganun.
You're not entirely wrong, no. Kasi parang may existential, how do I put it? There's an existential threat. So, it's like, okay, we need to set aside our differences. Otherwise, we're all gonna die, basically.
Yeah, that's basically the case.
That's basically the case.
Though
So-
I would say Victor would probably say, we're not killing people. We're solving their problems.
Yeah.
Parang yun.
Which
Parang,
I would say is probably what you call it? Like it's very easily related to the idea of like communism, I guess.
Yeah.
The death of the individual.
Yeah, because you're doing stuff. Sa bagay, tama naman. So, we're starting to delve into like specific mindsets and propositions by character like Victor and so on. So, how I wanted to take it, because this is a very character driven, or rather the medium which they deliver a lot of really interesting stuff is through the characters. And I would like to, yung framework na gusto kong is, sino yung mga characters that you'd like to unpack, kumbaga? Like, who are they, why do you like them, and what is the main drive that this character delivers in season 2?
Ako would be si Victor.
Okay.
I was gonna say the same. I've already been talking about him.
Yeah, that's-
I mean,
go.
Victor would be a good discussion point kasi he had the solution. He had the solution to the problem they were all having. The problem was the solution kind of became that kind of led to stagnation. Diba? So parang that's yung conundrum that Victor was in is kind of interesting to look at kasi what's the term? If he didn't find the solution, then there wouldn't have it's more of ano pipiliin mo, yung solution, yung sagot ba that would eventually lead you to stagnation, or not answering the problem kasi it leads to, evolution.
Can you define, like, what is your in this case, what is your problem and what is your
Yeah,
solution?
the for me kasi parang what, ano ba? Jace and Victor started off in season 1 as supposed to be problem solvers, right?
Right.
Mhm.
But because of to ano to Victor and to Jace, they became the problem
Because of what?
because of what happened to Victor and to Jace.
Ah.
They became the problem.
Which part of what
Mhm.
happened? The
There's a lot of stuff that happened.
yeah.
The way that Jace set aside their original goals just so he could, he could be someone to big people. Tapos Victor naman, he was trying hard to work on the solution on his own. And then because of that, he was, eaten ba yun? Or what's the right term? Not eaten. Because the anomaly happened, basically.
Mm.
So leading that to season 2, they found their own solutions as well, diba? Jace thought that like, I'm trying not to be spoilerish. Jace,
Okay,
I
then
think,
go
I
spoiler
think, I
warning
think we're
tayo.
beyond the point of
Spoiler
spoilers.
alert na tayo eh.
anyway, Jace, Victor thought that the solution is, for them to be under one mind. And then, but because, yun yung nakitang solution ni Jace, ni Victor. But then, Jace disagrees. And because of what happened to him to that portal, and that what's shown to him, parang, alam ni Vic, teka, I lost my train of thought. Basically, ang ano na lang,
Yeah, man.
ang endpoint is, basta ang endpoint ang gusto kong sabihin is, both of them became the problem in the end. They both wanted to be the answer to Piltover and Zaun's problems, but because of how they went about finding their solution, they became the problems themselves. So yun yung basically gusto kong sabihin.
Okay.
And parang I want to discuss that in a sense.
Yeah, I get
Kasi
it.
it's a good jumping point kasi. Parang it's a Batman problem. You live long enough, you live
become
long
the
enough to become the villain.
Yeah.
Which,
But I think with Victor ka, sucks. Alam mo yung Victor parang ano nga eh, ang labas sa akin parang, wow, this is like a fascist problem.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it's very much the problem of communism, democracy. I think, like, in its core, it's the idea that because I actually admire some principles of it, because it's like, in an ideal world we would all be of the same mind, like, we are, like, people, there would be no we would all be in agreement on how resources are distributed. We would all be in agreement on, like, like, if we could be of equal health and circumstance all the time, no? So everyone has a sense of empathy for all things. But I think in that case, how do you put this? I wouldn't really say flaw, but I guess the death of that concept is the reality that we're not, and we were born and created into a world that isn't that way. And I think what happened, like, what Vin said, like, the real reason that things ended up the way they did, or that there was like a corruption, so to speak, is because, I guess, they went against what I would say is the design, like, the design of the world. They tried to take the world design in their own hands.
Yeah.
And I think that also ends up as the flaw to a lot of humanity, right? We aspire to like do great things, but as Victor also says, you know, the I don't remember the exact words, but in essence, the seeds of our greatest goods are also the roots of our greatest evil.
Yeah,
Right.
agree. And I think like actually to juxtapose, wow, big word, juxtapose, to juxtapose that actually with me to the design. We keep talking about the design, right? And I look at it where God's design for humanity was not to become one mind. Kasi if God's design was that, He could have just done that from the start na ano tayo, parang robots tayo, diba? Yet, He designed us with free will. Which means He designed us to have our own thinking, our own, to do our own path. Of course, He desires that at the end, we will go back to Him. But, He wants us to make that choice freely. Hindi yung, hindi yung pipilitin mo. No? At the beginning, you could see that the people who were aligned with Victor were, they were the ones who were freely offering themselves to be one with diba, with Victor. But eventually, parang sinasabi niya, hindi, kailangan lahat daw. So now he is forcing that ideology onto everyone. And I think that's in a sense yun yung dito yung conflict because si Jace, on the other hand, when he was sent to the other universe, the other timeline,
I was gonna insert lang, which was that change only really was triggered after Jace betrayed him.
But that's also true. But that's also true. But that's also true. So parang Jace saw that this is the future that it would bring, that one mind sila pero they're no longer individuals. There's no longer thinking, there's no longer creativity, it's just
there's stagnation,
diba? Stagnation, nothingness na siya. And so na-realize ni Jace na yes, we have to stop this. The way he went about it, I don't agree with. But diba, parang you can see where Jace was coming from din naman at the same time. So parang yun yung concept, because Jace is the typical typical na what do you call this character, the hero type character, we have to do this, we have to make it right, etc., no. The problem is he's so one-tracked, one-minded and individualistic that he thinks that only his method is correct.
This way is the right way.
Diba? Na parang hindi man lang
niya. That's the problem with both of them nga eh. Kasi they both had the right heart, but the way they view things was very singular. It's like, this is the way. The thing is, they didn't understand.
They were very rigid.
There's a lack of understanding to the society at large. Their minds and hearts did not have the capacity to bear what everyone needed. Because, I mean, tao lang naman din sila, di ba? So you need, for you to actually, so my thinking is that they had the right direction, intention, which is like, we want to help make things better, we want to help solve things. Yeah, that's totally good, fine, and great. The problem would be that when they went about doing it, yun nga, only their own understanding, only their own interpretation applied. It did not take into consideration the value of individuality, of how different people express themselves, their wills, their needs, so on.
May contention ako dyan ng onte. Just because I feel like, yes, that is true, but the key difference to me between Jace and Victor is that technically Victor did listen, but it was more that there were so many voices that he could hear that when he listened to everyone, what he realized was everyone contradicts themselves. And so that's where he then decided that the problem to humanity is that we are self-contradicting. And therefore, he needed to take that into his own hands.
I think that's also where the idea is that we're not supposed to just listen to just anyone.
Oh, tingnan mo pinakinggan ni Jason Melon.
Because a lot of times in life, you listen to people and then you also come to the same conclusion. It's like, alam mo naman ano yung dapat mo gawin pero ginagawa mo pa, hindi.
Where is that?
Pero to piggyback on what John said earlier, na parang...
Sorry. Let me just finish that thought lang din. Because I was gonna say that, but then even if that's the case, even if you know what they should be doing and that they're not doing it, it also doesn't justify that you take that decision out of their hands. Because it becomes that like technically toxic concept sometimes parents have, right? Where it's like, alam ko nung maganda para sa'yo, ito na gagawin mo. You have no right to decide. And then there is that weight to when people make their own decisions that give those decisions the power to change them, to change their lives.
Agreed. I think this is also where it comes na yung idea din kasi na yung sinabi ni John kanina na parang ano nga to? They were leaning on their own understanding, and actually in Proverbs,
exactly.
In Proverbs it says nga, diba, parang sabi, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. So, in a world where there is no God, talagang ganyan ang mangyayari. Diba? Where there is no one who really is, you would say, divine, that can instruct you properly, they are leaning on their own understanding. Yes. And so, their own understanding is flawed because they're all human. Even, well, we have other races, no? But they are human-like in the way that they act, in the way they...
They're more... Their understanding is limited.
Yes.
Hindi siya all-encompassing. It cannot take into consideration or understand every single life or every single living being.
And consider this, even like yung, di ba yung understanding nila is molded by their circumstances in their situation. So parang pag kinompare natin, which I really love that they did it in the series, they compared the experience of Jace in the bad ending versus versus the experience of Echo in the alternate timeline, where that one small instance or change actually led to a society where the Zaunites and the Piltover, the people from Piltover were actually coming together, versus yung naman na extreme difference yung kay Jace. And you can see that their experiences also shape their responses kasi doon nakalin yung understanding nila
How? Yeah, I suppose that's true.
And then it was also very interesting, no, na how like with this new idea released, in a lot of ways it seemed like the troubles that they faced in season 1 like dwarfed its size, but which I think is also interesting in that sometimes like certain circumstances can feel so big to us. Like, for example, nag-aaway tayo sa pamilya, it can feel so big, but then also if you like look at things in a bigger scale, sometimes parang ang liit na lang ng problema natin. And it's like that's also sometimes sometimes you need to take a step. Sometimes when the world feels so overwhelming, it can take is like a step back or a recentering of ourselves in order to find
and I
the
think
solutions.
I think it's also babalik tayo sa perspective na parang and the perspective of many of the characters, a certain character is a villain, pero actually that character might, I'm just trying to live here, I'm just trying to survive. So parang they, in their perspective, the reason I'm like this or I did this is because you did this, because you are like that. Parang ganun. And in many cases ganun yung ganun yung, I would say ganun yung relationship ni Victor tsaka ni Jace, is them just responding to each other's flaws and mistakes. Kaya sabi niya,
it's very reactive, and they didn't take the time to like step back and process things properly. Like, kasi actually yun na naman sa sign of maturity, diba? Knowing when to back off or knowing when to go in and commit. It's knowing when to take the different perspective So medyo dun sila naghirap kasi they're doing like, oh, I'm doing this. Parang it's very emotional. There are many emotionally driven decisions.
Yeah. And I think that's where, at one point si Mel called out Jace eh. Na parang, ano nangyari sa'yo? Parang, you just disappeared. You didn't say anything. Parang wala. He took everything on his own. When we know that in the early part of the series, no, they were an item even, diba?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I found that so interesting how disconnected they seemed. Like, it didn't seem like Jace was looking for Mel when she got kidnapped, parang ganun. And then nagbabalik sila, and then si Mel nangungumusta, si Jace was already angry, you know, like, the perspectives were strange. But I really like Mel's character because I feel like she becomes a foil, say for example, to Jace in certain ways where you see how Jace tried to solve every problem on his own.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mel had like so many people that she talked to try to help her with her problems, diba? Like she like she opened up to work as a group because she was of the understanding that she couldn't conquer her mother alone. But then you see Jace and Victor kind of like try to do things on their own. So it's like the importance of having a community and a network to help ground you so that your world isn't your perspective, I'd say, isn't very narrow.
Isn't narrowed. And it has to be a community that is diverse so that you don't belong to an echo chamber na isang perspective lang naririnig mo all the time. Kailangan may diversity din na naririnig mo yung
And then
din.
when you mentioned echo chamber, that's what happened actually.
What happened to?
That's what happened to Victor kasi he also diba, he had people talk to him. He parang mention ko kanina, they didn't take the time to talk, to think about it. Pero Victor had the time. It's just that yung kausap niya aren't the people that sino ba kausap niya? Yung spirit nung namatay niyang assistant.
Yeah.
Which is, it's pretty much you're talking
This guy.
thing
Talk
that guilt
to
talk
yourself,
to you.
yeah.
Oh, diba? So
Not
yung
only-
echo chamber works well. Kasi, tatandaan mo, yung biggest disappointment ni Heimer na I don't want to abandon yet another, diba? If Heimer was there to support both Jace and Victor, tingin mo ba magiging ganito yun?
Baka
Kasi-
hindi. Pero
kasi, diba?
they ejected Heimer kasi.
They rejected Heimer. Let Jace listened to Mel, Victor listened to whatever he listens to. and then look what happened naman between Echo and Heimer. Diba?
may they actually had a good relationship in such a way they actually have differing
They had
perspectives.
rapport. They
But
had
they had rapport.
different perspectives.
Diba? And in the end,
Diba?
even then, Echo, acknowledged that Heimer was a mentor to him diba?
Yeah.
Despite their differences. So parang maganda rin nga yun kasi like in a sense then diba kay Victor, he's listening to the spirit
The
of
voice
of Sky.
Arcane.
So parang that lady is so what do you call this? Obsessed
Well-
naman to begin with Victor na parang whatever he says it's like going to be anyway. So she's not going to be giving any kind of different perspective, 'di ba? Parang kumbaga kukonsintihin pa niya yung sinasabi ni Victor kahit hindi na tama.
Tsaka yung guilt
There,
din
there are
May guilt din
there are perspectives to be taken also on yung Sky. Like, was that really Sky or was that just a figment of his imagination? So there's those things.
And I really appreciate how the show is able to show us these perspectives, no? Not just of, say, yung different issues from different sides, but even just of different people. Like we in season 1 especially, we see a lot of Silco as the villain, but then the more we get into Jinx's head, we see like how this person she saw as someone who was a comfort. Or say, for example, even just Jinx herself, you see the alternate universe like Powder and how she was like in this certain world and that. And even with
The alternate
how she
universe
treats her
Silco.
sister. Yeah, and like we see her at the start of um start of season 2, technically from taking off from the end of season 1 as like a terrorist. But even as a terrorist, then to Piltover, she was a hero to Zaun. So there's a lot of like duality, and then the show really invites you to look at those different perspectives and to be able to shift lenses, which I really enjoy.
Sorry, alam mo nakikita ko talaga yung parallelism with Wicked eh. with Jinx, specifically the character of Jinx, where she is seen as a villain into most of Piltover, but to Zaun, she is parang
The hero.
the rebel leader. Even to a point where she herself did not want that role, pero yun na yung role na thrust upon her kay Jinx, na she is parang a symbol of hope for the Zaunites, na parang
symbol of defiance.
Defiance, yeah. But it's a symbol of hope eh. It's a symbol
Arcane
of hope
and New Hope.
Arcane and New
Oh
Hope.
gosh, yeah.
But she was a symbol of hope kasi parang it's what triggered the people to stand up eh, to go against the oppression that they were experiencing. Unfortunately kasi for the Zaunites, there was no difference between the Noxians and the Piltover people, 'di ba? Para sa kanila the same people, these are the same people. They didn't really differentiate eh. Yeah. So yeah. And I actually, for me, one of the characters that I really was fascinated is Jinx, to be honest. Kasi siya yung may pinakamaraming trauma eh. Saka baggage.
Actually.
And I think it's also because a lot of her and I have to say this kasi sa season 1 she was motivated mostly by her her desire to be approved, her need to be approved. Kailangan may approval siya, so that's why for most of Act 1 she was like trying to get the approval of her sister, and then when things went awry, she found her approval in Silco, 'di ba? Kasi Silco became the surrogate father that she wanted na so she was a fanatic for Silco. But as we move to season 2, she grows in maturity in such a way that she starts to realize that she has done a lot of things that hindi talaga tama. 'Di ba? In the way that she sided with Silco, in the way that she treated even some of the Zaunites, even though she is treated like a hero, she knew that she also did things that were not right sa mga Zaunites. And parang interesting yung conflict niya doon, that even and in the end, 'di ba, parang she was willing to surrender herself kasi na-realize niya talaga na yung parang yung guilt niya talaga has just overtaken her. I like the fact that she healed from her fractured psyche, kasi fractured talaga yun from season 1 Sa season 2 you can see that she really had to go through the process of healing, even though it had to go through the death of somebody else, si Isha, for her to really process everything that she has gone through. And it's interesting that 'di ba, parang in the end the sister that she hated was the one that she tried to save, 'di ba? And so parang although we see no dead body, no, but it seems like she died. But we don't know. It seemed like that was her last act, was to save Vi, no.
Pero I've been rewatching the last scene.
Oo, walang bad.
The Jinx is alive. There's a lot of the ending credits point to that she's alive. The trail of pink spark that signifies when she speeds
The
up.
shimmer.
Yeah.
The shimmer. Tsaka the balloon talaga eh, the dirigible balloon.
That throws back to season 1, her dream to fly in an airship.
Yeah.
Pero the shimmer power.
Yes.
Pero without that, it seemed like that was her last act, was to really save her sister. And so
regardless of if she's dead or alive, she still put her life on the line first.
She really put her, honestly, nasasayang ako kay Vi kasi parang character development, what? Wala masyado.
Yeah, the one with the greatest development, I think, yeah, Jinx number one had the most character growth among all of the characters. Vi, I felt, did not quite grow. I feel like she regressed, or she just shifted sideways. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was more a stagnation, if anything. Like, and I did bring that up to, like, 'cause I have a lot of friends who are really big Vi fans and felt disappointed with how she progressed as a character. And I felt a lot of it was just because, if anything, the show kept repeating that she is this certain thing. Like, in the alternate timeline, she was someone who was strong because she cared. And
No,
it
she
felt
was
like,
scared. She was scared.
because she was scared. She was scared. She was scared to lose the people that she cared about. And then
Right.
basically that is the thread that continues on throughout everything that she does. She is scared because she cares about people. And then, like, that becomes her weakness and her strength, but it's like something that just continues in a linear manner where you just reinforce that idea instead of bring it somewhere else.
So parang it's in a sense parang naging parang powder yung character niya na parang she cares so much about these people and losing them is just going to be so everything that she does is driven by
Fear.
her fear and her relationship with the people that she cares about and losing them, yung fear of losing them. So parang ako,
Yeah.
ano nangyari sa'yo? Nag-regress ka, naging powder ka, parang gano'n ang labas, diba? Parang,
Pero feeling ko kasi, I mean, personally, I think that makes sense with her storyline kasi pagod na siya eh. After everything that's happened to her, parang she has reached a point of exhaustion to the point na, alam mo yun, hindi niya kaya. Yun
Parang
yung
ayoko na.
I think, parang,
Sige, go ahead.
that's my
Sige.
I did all these things. I'm tired. I'm so tired emotionally. I'm battered. I've been like this. I've been treated like this. Parang ayoko na. Hindi na ako nag-iisip. And I think that's her point. Na that's her arc of the story for me. Kasi
Yeah.
parang ano mo yun?
Yung nakikita kong medyo change is just like in season 1, especially when yung child Vi pushes away Jinx. It was a lot of she was projecting her rage onto other people.
yeah.
So what happens in season 2 is it feels like inaakin niya. So like she blames herself for everything, which isn't necessarily growth. So I think that's what
No.
that's what I
opposite.
see in terms of John's line. I wouldn't say it's a regression because she's at least not projecting it outwards. But at the same time, it's not really a solution.
Napagod
It's
na talaga
It's a
siya.
different way of
I mean-
dealing with it that isn't exactly healthy.
I
Yeah,
think-
basically. Kasi napagod siya, correct? Because she had no
no support
way
system din eh.
of correctly dealing with all of her
Yeah, all of the
anxiety.
things that she faced.
Oo. So, kasi ang nangyari is, she was the protector. Actually, it's an interesting point eh. Kasi yung mindset niya, diba? Actually, in season 1, Vander was grooming her to be a
Be the
protector.
next leader.
Next leader, next protector. And that's what we thought her trajectory would be. Instead, in season 2, it's like she's rudderless. She looks towards other people for direction because she lost her father figure, she lost a lot, she got put in prison, etc. So naging lang siya. Naging galit lang siya. And wala na siyang parang she had no more overarching direction.
I think also,
And all she had left was that relationship with her sister.
yeah, and also I think kasi for most of the season 2, before she finally met up with her sister, is that her support system was totally parang naka-revolve lang siya around Caitlyn. And when na-break yon sa storyline, parang siya, I'm walking aimlessly, I don't know where to go, what direction I should take. Naging ganun yung yung character niya until she came to meet si Jinx again. And that's when she decided na parang, no, I have to protect my sister, I have to, alam mo yun, parang biglang ganun, parang she is latching on to the nearest relationship that that she can have, because she doesn't have that support system that even Jinx had a support system. I mean, in a sense.
Yeah, so funny enough, she did have a support system. So parang ang nangyari sa kanya was, if you analyze her personality type, Vi finds her value by placing it in other people. Like, I wouldn't say she inherently doesn't know how to find value on her own, but whatever it is, her personality is like, she finds it in protecting the relationships that he has. But the thing is, she wasn't making the relationships
That's why parang
that he needed to, I guess.
parang
Hindi,
that's
kasi
why,
ako personally, what I think is that at this point in time, kasi that's what happens when you train someone so much na parang you tell them na you're supposed to be this person without giving them the capacity to understand it properly. Kasi diba, remember, you guys mentioned a while ago, under vying to becoming this person. Which is, if you think about it, wala namang mali doon. Kasi, ano naman that makes sense. Pero kasi, since Vander died, spoiler alert,
Vander died too early to complete her training.
To complete yung training. Kaya tuloy, ang nangyari, that's what happens when too much responsibility too early without the proper guidance, na if things come to a head, the person just breaks down.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this out of experience myself. Kasi ako mismo na parang ako mismo na experience ko na parang dapat ito dapat ganyan ka and all those things. And then dumating sa point na nag-shutdown na lang ako na ayoko. Ano pa pong point ko ng point of me living?
Yeah, but as a point that goes, I would say, alongside that, yung masasabi ko din is, other than, like, say, maybe she didn't complete her training, no? I think it was also just a lot of that training was her developed in her putting a lot of her self-worth in being, like, the person who's able to protect these people. And what the show does is one by one breaks that idea.
Yeah.
She is unable to protect the people that she cares about. One by one, nawawala yung mga taong yun. So that's why you see her core also crumble as a character, because she's just like, if I'm not the person who's able to protect these people, then who am I?
Alam mo, may na-realize lang ako that this show did better. This is how Korra should have ended up. This is how Korra should have ended up. Na parang, diba, I think Korra did it better in one aspect kasi it had more
time.
It had more time compared to Arcane. Pero diba, if you think about it, it's ironically Korra did better.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think that's also why a lot of people feel like dissatisfied with Vi's ending, because yes, you see her break down from so she's not necessarily the person who protects these people, but then you're left with a hanging question of what then is she, which is something we don't really other than her saying that she's going to continue to support Caitlyn. It's like, and then what? So like parang ang half baked, I guess, ng where she ended up when you think of it in that progression.
That's true. Okay. Although I don't mind that.
I don't mind that too.
Yeah, the story leaves us with characters who are incomplete at the ending because their story's not done yet.
That's true.
But also the reality of some people don't grow the way we wish they would grow. Unfortunately, minsan ganun din eh.
Yeah, but especially with a series that puts her as one of the main characters at the start, it's kind of and not satisfying to see that character not really end up anywhere. When like technically you start from Arcane season 1, you look at Jinx and Vi is really the central thing.
Yeah, considering na parang you have like also considering that you have like secondary characters that they got
I know.
They got a lot of mileage dito. Like for example, you have the character ni Sevika That I actually admired how
Yeah.
at the end she
Yeah,
became
yeah.
the council member, diba? That represents
Mhm.
Zaun. And you could see her struggle talaga that she wanted better for better for Zaun,
Yeah.
but she does not have the power or the influence to do it. Diba? Kita mo yung struggle niya dun eh. But at the end, diba, parang she sided with the people built over. No, she fought with them, diba? And she won her seat. So kita mo may progression eh. Or even
She
the
won her seat, yeah.
or
that's
even
true.
the unnamed pianist who people think is
Yeah.
Jin. the
The
unnamed
unnamed pianist.
the unnamed pianist na parang I'm a pianist, I'm probably from a noble family in Piltover who has not known any kind of conflict, but I decide to sign up as as an enforcer to fight the war against Ambessa, 'di ba? Parang against the Noxians. And then
Yeah.
yung to the point na siya pa yung nagtanggal kay Loris. Loris.
That one. That's another one.
Siya pa nagtanggal kay Loris
Uh,
dun sa railgun para siya yung mag-take over. So nakita mo yung even that had like a character progression of a minor character who was not even named. 'Di ba?
That's
But
true.
even I was gonna say like actually it's a very big conversation point I've been seeing. I saw at least 3 posts about it in the last 2 days of like, is Vi a toxic sister? Like I saw a lot of conversation about that, and I'm so interested in hearing what your perspective is there. Like, do
Is
you
Vi
like how much of what happened to Powder is Vi's fault?
Okay. I think I personally think that Vi's biggest mistake was yung getting angry at Powder when they were young. Yung nireject niya si Powder. I think that was really but I wouldn't call it toxic. I would say that it was a mistake because she saw what
being a child.
happened. She was hurt as well. She was angry as well. And there needed to be someone na mapagbabalingan ng galit niya sa nangyari. And Powder was there. And Powder was, di ba, parang was even celebrating. She never explained to Powder what Powder did eh. Di ba? That was wrong. Kasi you don't get mad or parang discipline someone and not tell them what mistake they made eh. And I think that was really the biggest thing that Vi did. But if you look at her actions, at least in season 2, if you look at her actions in season 2, her whole shtick was I have to
Yeah.
save my sister. I believe in my sister. In fact, when no one believed in her sister, it was Vi who believed in Jinx. 'Di ba? So para sa akin hindi toxic. Maybe she made mistakes. Maybe also Jinx misinterpreted her actions, but I wouldn't say that she was toxic.
Kung nag-uusap sila sana, things would have been
Si
Yeah,
Jinx
hindi.
din naman was not ready to listen eh. That's the
Yeah.
problem. A lot of times Jinx was not ready to listen eh.
Because there are a lot of things like yes we all know that mali yung ginawa ni Vi when she lashed out, no? But then there were even a lot of instances before and that people also point out na parang how do you put this? Like Vi was that parent na parang always said no to their children. Like, di ba, like, she would just say na, no, like, kami lang gagawa nito, or would, like, leave her out of things. So, of course, as a child, she would also want to join in kasi hindi niya naiintindihan kung bakit. Like, overprotective parents sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, they just deny their children things. You're like, no, you're not allowed this, you're not allowed that. And, of course, children in their natural curiosity want to explore these things. So what is your insight towards this kind of behavior?
Ako para sa akin Vi was just too young to understand the consequence then of her pag say no eh.
Yeah, kasi ako for me, people are too quick to tag people as toxic or not. And in this case, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Yeah, and I think
Na
kasi
parang
yeah, go on.
she made mistakes because she's a child.
She's a child who grew up nawala yung
Nawala yung father figure.
father figure niya.
So, anong gani-expect mo? Diba?
Saka I think like for example, 'di ba nga si Vi would say no because she's just protecting the sister. Pero wala naman siyang, it's not like parang...
It's not out of malice.
It's not out of malice. There was no gaslighting involved. There was no degrading na parang you're beneath me or you're wrong. In fact, in many times, he would defend Powder kay Milo, diba?
Yeah,
So parang,
true.
I would say that, Vi was acting like an older sister. In fact, because if you watch American television and you look at sibling rivalries and whatnot, there are real examples of
siblings.
of toxic siblings. I don't think this was a toxic sibling. Vi was genuinely wanting to keep Powder safe. She just didn't know how to do it properly. Kumbaga, and no one was there to teach them, 'di ba? Parang in a sense, and Vi was what also a kid, no? Parang if you're
Yeah.
forcing a kid that's like what 10, 12 years old, prepubescent to mother a younger child, you're not gonna get good results. Diba?
Yeah, and I feel like that is something I agree. I think that's something that a lot of people forget, no? Like they expect so much of her when and at the end of the day she was also just a child.
See,
So
again,
it's like
expectations. Even people that are not in Arcane are putting expectations kay Vi.
Let's
Yeah.
Tapos when you look at Vi in second season, sa second season, was she still like that kay Powder or kay Jinx? No eh. No, 'di ba? Hindi siya ganun. So parang you can see naman talaga na it's really an issue of age and maturity.
But I think it was also like that whole idea of like they grew up without, I would say, like, proper
Without-
parenting. And even in a lot of ways, Vander also had a lot of shortcomings because of like in being able to child rear, raise them as children. And like a lot of Jinx's predispositions towards her mental illness were things that were already kind of sort of there. It's just they grew up in a world where they also had no means to really identify those things or no systems to help them through those mental challenges that they were facing.
Yeah, they
For
didn't
sure.
have the training, unlike us. Like supposedly we have the.
Well, Arcane doesn't have therapy yet.
No.
Pero I
No,
think
well-
I would say nga na of all the characters, Caitlyn nga is probably one of the most balanced, mentally balanced
I disagree.
characters.
I think that would be Echo.
Echo.
Has-
Kasi
I'm
considering
one of the
considering-
Echo is one of the.
Echo, yeah. I would
Yeah.
agree with
Okay,
that.
if we were gonna look at all the characters, all of the significant characters, I would rate Echo as one of the most emotionally
well-adjusted.
mature characters. If only for the fact that he was able to let go of what he
Yung prejudice niya.
his prejudice of a very much enjoyable life and experience because he knew he needed to go back
And back to his timeline.
to his own timeline because there were people who needed him.
Not only
May
that,
challenger ako dyan.
No, but
Not only
the
that,
reason I
though,
say, the reason I say Caitlyn, kasi we see Caitlyn go through a roller coaster of emotions. Namatay yung
Yes.
parents niya, galit siya kay Jinx. But, her rationale eventually wins in the end na parang eventually realize niya na minamanipulate siya ni Ambessa. Eventually
Yeah,
na-realize
don't-
niya
ano lang eh, he just wanted that vibe.
nakainis.
He
Eventually,
just wanted vibe.
You know that's not true.
I know,
Because
I'm kidding.
if anything,
I know, I'm
affection-
kidding.
If anything,
It's a
affection for
meme.
Vi would have made that
It's a
decision
meme.
harder because she was more like in pain because of what happened.
eventually she
Yeah.
was able to let go of yung bias na kay Jinx, 'di ba?
Yeah, pero ganun din sila
In
eh,
the
ganun.
way that she treated Jinx after the incident sa
Iniisip ko lang do.
sa end of Act 2, season 2, Act 2. 'Di ba nang kinakausap niya si Vi, she was very level-headed. Sabi nga ni Jinx, parang siya pa nga yung surprise Caitlyn was the one surprised that Jinx surrendered herself to her. No, parang walang bahid ng emotion na parang the way that she was
I'm actually confused right now. John, yung nangyari sa Wild Rift na story, ever shown in Arcane?
Which
I
one?
didn't think so. Yung
Which part?
Echo and Heimer discuss. Kasi kung yung prejudice lang din pag pinag-uusapan natin, though I would agree na Caitlyn did that as well. Yung prejudice din kasi ni Echo against Piltover.
Malakas ang niya.
Yung prejudice niya as well.
Pero interesting that the prejudice of the
Is it
Prime...
about what happened?
Sorry. I was going to say lang that the prejudice of Prime Echo against Piltover was based on what happened sa
Season
sa season 1, deaths of Milo and what's his face? I always forget his name.
Clegor?
Gregor. Pero look at the character of Echo in the alternate timeline gives the suggestion that this guy does not have that same bias. Gets mo?
Which Echo? The Prime
the
Echo
alternate,
or
the alternate timeline niya.
Okay.
If you
So, are you talking about what happened to Benzo ba as the reason for Echo's
kasi nagalit siya dahil sa nangyari doon sa deaths ng dalawa plus yung kay Benzo na parang all of these were circumstances that were triggered between the conflict between Piltover and Zaun So kaya yung bias ni Echo is really may galit talaga siya sa Piltover. And that makes sense. It's understandable and he was relatively young actually compared to the others, 'di ba? Bata din siya nung nangyari.
Yeah, he was roughly the same age as Jinx basically.
Yes. So, pero when you look at how Echo's life is in the alternate timeline, you don't see that same bias
When you're saying bias, meaning basically his anti-Piltover stance.
Yes. That's what I'm
Pero
saying.
Okay.
Okay.
So yun lang yung point ko na iba yung kaya nga 'di ba nga si Echo himself, the Prime Echo, living in the life of the alternate Echo timeline, parang it was just so foreign to him because the alternate Echo timeline was like parang in a sense living the life, 'di ba? Living a good life
Hindi kasi parang ang pinag-uusapan natin dito kasi is biases.
Oo nga.
And Prime Echo was already biased. And walang kinalaman si alternate Echo kasi yung about yung dalan-dalan ng Prime Echo. And kasi that's why he created the Firelights.
Yeah, to fight back.
To fight back against the Piltovers.
Yeah, yun nga. I
So,
agree
parang,
with that. Oo.
I mean, I don't disagree na I think it's just that Caitlyn and I agree na also Caitlyn biased. Pero at the same time kasi, for me, mas malaman at mas deep-seated yung bias ni Echo compared to Caitlyn. In a sense na yung intensity nung kay intense. Kasi in a short amount of time, everything went to hell. Pero kasi si Echo has been living quote-unquote through hell with how Piltover has...
So, a brief correction. Firelights weren't created to fight against Piltover.
Yeah,
Firelights were created because they wanted to escape the conflict that was happening between Piltover and Zaun. They wanted to create a space where they're just avoid all of it. That's why they wanted to be hidden. They wanted to be away from everything. They didn't want people to know.
Ayaw nila makigulo, basically. They're the...
So it's very much not that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Maybe
pero
rather than
still-
say fight against, they're more of like a Robin Hood vibe. Like, we don't want you to know who we are. We just want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because
peacefully.
In a sense it was the Piltover enforcers, the Chem Barons, and the Firelight, diba? And they also saw that the Chem Barons were not doing anything good either.
Yeah.
Diba?
Right.
Yeah, because of that stupid shimmer.
Yes, yes.
Correct.
So it's like yeah, I understand what you mean, where you're like the cause of pain is there in different regards. Going back, we were talking about like maturity in terms of characters, right, and being able to have like the emotional
Yeah.
maturity. And I was like, my challenger ako dyan, because for me talaga, the one who's most emotionally mature is Heimerdinger. But that
Well,
maturity is
yeah.
also it happens
I
because
was
he's
gonna put him there
experienced so
too.
much life. So in a way you can say that they're able to gain this kind of emotional depth because of all the experiences that they've had. So like you can even say that you can see the growth in Echo in terms of his maturity also when he's able to experience that other world, and so it helps him gain a perspective, and then it helps him overcome also, like in a way you could say the Firelights was an avoidant way of solving the problem. Like bahala na problema nyo, we're going to try to create a space for ourselves where we can be safe from this conflict. And so he's pushed towards like actually actively trying to
Avoiding.
solve the problem instead of just avoiding it. So
Okay.
it's that if you're able to gain more experience, we can use that in order to level up our emotional maturity stats.
I would agree in a sense that Heimer has that level of maturity, also that it comes with age.
Yeah, exactly.
Come with age, comes with
Basically,
experience.
Heimer is
Ano? Sorry,
Heimer's a
naputol
what?
ka.
Heimer is basically Uncle Iroh.
But I think also
Kind of.
but I think that Heimer at some point was being
He
driven
was
by
also
fear.
hurt by the world. So
He was
medyo
hurt by the world. Maybe he made decisions and even gave advice that sounded like someone who was hurt and afraid that it will happen again. When it may not necessarily, which is actually in a sense parang stopped him from innovating eh. Diba? He's supposed to be an innovator, but at the same
Yeah.
time at
Just
some point
like
parang
Uncle
natakot na
Iroh.
siya
With Zuko.
mag-innovate kasi ito yung experience niya, 'di ba? Na parang
Just like Uncle Iroh with Zuko. Anyway.
which I in a sense made him a bad mentor to Jace because hindi niya instead of parang parang directing Jace in a path that is safe. He just simply said no to Jace and just siyempre si Jace parang the rebellious
Well,
side.
no. Yeah, okay.
Gets what you mean.
Heimer in season 1 was opposed, but ultimately, he also guided them. Kasi the council voted for it. Tama ba? Actually, it's been a while. It's been 3 years. Did he support them, or did he
Hindi kasi remember,
support not in the sense na I vote for you, but more in the sense na okay, the council voted for it, but I'm gonna make sure that you're gonna do it correctly.
kasi I
Kasi he
remember
was involved.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was. But I think kasi I remember that what struck me was at the first few episodes where 'di ba Jace was under trial
Yes.
and si Heimer gave him a bit of advice, and to me it sounded like advice na just give up. Wag mo nang gawin. Parang ganon. Tapos
Yeah.
when Jace spoke up pa din, disappointed si Heimer.
Yeah, well, to be fair, that's season 1, episode 2. That's literally his stance. He's an innovator, yes, but he likes to do things safely. And he
Yeah.
experienced kasi the
The Rune Wars.
Which I get, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
also what I'm trying to say is that it also drove a lot of his advice
It did.
and
It did.
the direction. It wasn't
Medyo
until
fear.
parang sa season 2 hindi na siya ganun eh. Season 2 siya nag-mature yung niya eh. And that's why
Kasi-
parang he was a proper mentor to Echo in a sense.
Well,
Because he
yeah.
was no longer like that. He was not
Ito yung
driven by
question
that
ko,
fear.
ito yung question ko pala regarding that. Kasi di ba John V played Wild Rift eh, and they added
Yeah,
yung
yeah.
element, they added the elements nung what we're talking about now in Wild Rift na wala so I'm trying to think
Yeah.
nasa ano ba siya? Was it part of the series or was it only part in game?
Well, okay. So the stuff that you find in game reflects on the series. So like, when Echo was talking about yung time niya with Benzo and everything, it's like, yeah, this was also in the series.
Yeah. Okay.
So everything that he was talking about in the game, para siyang soft recap
Can you bring
Like
back
it's like
Ellie, please?
it's a bit of a recap. Oy, si Ellie na wala.
Can you bring her back?
What happened?
She's back in the tavern.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello again.
Akala ko, umalis ka kasi ang intense ng usapan eh.
Nag-rage quit.
Yung
Great.
na.
You're a former debater, so hindi pwede. Anyway, so, diba, parang anyway, going back to what I was asking.
Yes.
So, what we're seeing right now, coming into season 2, yung what we saw in the game, was it pre-season 2? was it
I would consider it
pre, no? Was it pre? It's pre, no?
it's in between. Kasi
In
you
between,
know,
no?
at the end of season 1, we know that Heimer was spending time with Echo.
With Echo na. Yeah.
And there's an undefined amount of time between Jinx shooting the council to
Pangit pakinggan pero yan. Tama naman.
I mean, she did.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately how it happened, diba? She blasted the council, they all died.
Nard.
They died.
Mhm.
So there's a certain amount of time frame, and we know during that time frame that basically Heimer was with Echo.
There is no time skip between season 1 and season 2.
Yes,
Season 2 literally picked up from the rubble of
it does.
one.
But what I mean to say is yung first 2 episodes, basically the first act. Within the first act, there are increments of time because we don't really see. Basically, we don't really see much of Echo and Heimer
Heimer. Diba?
until Act 2. Act 2 lang sila lumabas talaga eh.
Act 3.
Mm.
Well, no, Act 3 is... No.
After season 1,
Act
episode
1,
Are you talking
Act
about
1,
season 1 or season 2?
Season 2,
Act
Season
3.
2.
Sa season 2, Act 3 na sila lumabas.
Yeah. Episode 7. First episode of the last act.
Because when Act 2 ended, people were asking, nasan si... after all that
Nasan
happened,
sila?
nasan si
Yeah,
Heimer,
yeah.
nasan si Echo? Yun yung tanong ng mga
Yeah,
tao.
correct. That's also what I'm saying. But what I mean to say is, I'm trying to establish the time that Echo and Heimer were together.
We're together. Yeah.
Okay. So, they had spent time together off-screen,
Matagal.
specifically off-screen. So you won't see it in the show. So I'm just trying to establish
from season 1 act I think the end of season 1 act 1 bar until like act 3 I think because in the whole act 2 they're not there I think.
Kaya nga wala si Heimer sa council nung pinasabog ni Jinx.
Correct.
Ang council.
because he was with Echo. So basically, Act 3, then the entirety of Act 3, Season 1, Act 3, to Season 2, Act 1.
Mhm.
Tama ba?
Wait.
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna pull up a recap.
Paki-recap na lang kasi I really wanted
Either way.
I mean, because we have an understanding of when they disappeared, right? Like, that's basically the end of season... Kailan ba yun? Yung nawala sila lahat with Jace. Season 2, Act 1? Yung the one with the dome.
Yes.
And they all disappeared together. Like, technically, it's from when we last see them until there, because that's when we have a definite sync
Yeah,
of the
that's
time
right. At the end of Act 1 is when they vanish into the dome. So I was correct. Act
Three.
1. Act 1.
Ah,
Okay, let me define what I'm trying to say. Basically, we're saying that Heimer had time to spend time with Echo mentoring him. And this happens off screen. This happens in something
Wild Rift.
with some things that you would see if you play Wild Rift, because they had a mini event showcasing the time that they spent together. So this is probably canonical. I'm sure there's mini clips somewhere, but basically you see Heimer kasi building things, making life better for the community of the Firelights. You don't see that in Arcane, but you do see it in the Arcane mini events or events in the games.
Mm.
So what Vince was asking is when does that happen? So that happens between season 1 and season 2. It happens in Act 3 season 1 and Act 1 season 2. Between that time period, that's when you have these experiences with Heimer. Because Echo is telling Heimer about his life,
In the
basically his life in Zaun. So that's it. So we got a lot of kind of a bit of
fixing.
it felt like a Jinx moment kasi yung tipong nag-shoot all over the place.
Yeah, we were trying to.
We were
I was
answering.
trying to establish kasi the timeline.
Mm,
Kasi that had enough time for him to
Either
But
way,
guys,
that
it's
they,
getting
they
late.
spent a significant amount of time together. That
yes.
Echo would say that talaga na naging mentor talaga daw si ano
Yes.
si
So,
Hyper sa kanya.
it as Vince mentioned, it is getting late. It's almost 11. So let us try pull things together productively. So originally we were supposed to do like okay one character per person, but we just kind of like went all over the place with different characters. Here's what I want to try this thing. Okay, main characters. Let's throw our main characters back in. We didn't even touch Jace. We didn't really get to discuss Victor. We didn't get to discuss Mel, who I actually really wanted to discuss. But we
Oh.
sadly don't have time for them
Actually, I like
anymore.
Mel. I really like Mel.
Yes, yes. And we didn't even get to discuss. We didn't even get to discuss Ambessa and
Yeah, there's
whatever.
so many good characters.
There's
It's
so many
such a
good characters. So I wanted us to like pick. Okay, champion a character, deep dive into them. If you were gonna choose a character to deep dive, who would you have chosen?
Echo.
Okay,
Victor.
Victor, you John, sinong pipiliin mo?
Na alon.
Sorry?
Ani, na
A
alin.
champion, a character to deep dive into.
Mm.
From the series.
Kung ako, I would choose well, I kind of deep dive into it already. Si Jinx.
Yes. Sino?
Si Jinx.
Jinx.
Jinx. Okay. Actually, you guys picked all the good ones. I don't really. I'm not that interested in anyone who's left.
Well, sabihin mo si Mel.
No.
Mel.
Sabihin mo si Mel.
Actually, I was like, it was either Victor or
I
Mel.
like Mel though, but I feel like she's already like a decently developed character. So, but anyway,
I think
because
they're-
the flip of the coin that I wanted to throw forward was okay. You have all of these really problematic people. They had so many mistakes. They acted this way, that way, which as we can see, it's a series of a lot of
Broken
societal
people.
societal brokenness and personal brokenness impacting each other on so many levels. My question is, if you had the ability to do so, what do you think would be the proper form of helping them heal?
Ako, I would say for Jinx, meds. No, just kidding.
My gosh, no, she has too much of that.
Therapy.
She got shimmer.
Most
No,
of
because
the
we know
characters.
they all
Yeah,
they
yeah.
all need therapy. They all need therapy of some sort. The question is,
No, I think
what is the driving point of your therapy for them?
I think for me, yung kay Jinx kasi kailangan niya ng she needs to be able to process her traumas with the people that she has traumas with. Gets? Kasi parang like for example, like initially what happened to her with with Vi, where Vi lashed out to her. Kailangan lang talaga nila pag-usapan yun eh. Kasi
Okay.
I think Jinx was too young to understand what went on when Vi lashed out to her. Diba?
Okay. Yeah.
Yung another thing is like sayang because they can no longer reach out to to Vander because Vander's technically dead. It's Warwick na talaga. But
Mm.
you could see that it helped her yung being able to talk to Vander as Vander. It helped her psyche It allowed her to heal from some of the trauma Kaya lang not not enough time ba for them to be
Yeah.
fully healed. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of for in Vi's case I would say that a lot of the trauma that she experienced is also in connection to misunderstanding of the actions of the people around her. And I think
Mm-hmm.
one way to heal that is to really process those things and maintindihan niya talaga what really went wrong. Kasi there was like that part din na ano, 'di ba? Parang may naintindihan niya na Vander actually wrote a letter to Silco
Mm.
na to apologize. And
They
sabi
wanted
nga
to
niya,
reconcile, yeah.
and sabi nga ni Jinx that if Vander actually sent that out, no, things would have been different. And so parang there basically every time si Jinx is always missing a picture, missing a piece of the puzzle. And so she needs to be
Yeah.
able to process that and talk about it so that she can complete the missing pieces in the puzzle so that she herself can also find a way to complete herself. Gets?
Mm.
Yan. So for me that's where the therapy would focus on.
Okay. So understanding that she has limited views and that she shouldn't be acting on her limited views. She should be taking the time to process and to learn how it actually is with other people. Like
Yeah.
I saw this, but what's the actual truth? What was the reality rather than just what I saw?
Kasi by the end of the series, she was also ready to take accountability eh. Which is, I
Okay.
think, that was a step of maturity na eh. Pero, yung how her actions got to that point, she needs to process that as well. Diba?
Mm.
Kasi or else she will just be guilt-ridden the entire time na parang I'm guilty, I should be here, ganyan. She was at one point like that eh. Diba?
Yep. Yeah.
But she
yeah.
also needs to understand how it got to that point, diba? Para she can move on with her life.
Mm. Okay, sige. Let's move to someone else. Eri, sino nga yung sa'yo?
I picked Victor, and I
Okay.
would say a lot of what JB said also applies. But I would say that especially if you look at it in the lens of the show, basically everything came to a heel. Really, when Jace told Victor that he's perfect the way he is, like that he always saw his own weaknesses as something that needed to be fixed, like his sickness, like his frailty were always things that he was trying to overcome because he felt like the world would be better if he could just fix what was wrong with everyone. So in a
Mm.
way, it shaped this whole perspective of people have problems that need to be fixed, and so he put himself in the perspective of someone who can gain worth by fixing the problems in people.
Right.
And that basically drives the whole ideology and everything that he does moving forward. So basically what really needs to happen is that he needs to be able to learn that earlier on. Basically be reinforced in his self-worth beyond like being a fixer of things. Beyond like that he as a whole is worthy and deserving of love and
Mm.
can be appreciated as a person as they are, and that in turn each person is that way, that they're not just problems that need to be fixed, but that they are deserving in and of themselves as they are.
Mm. That's a strong statement. I agree. No, because it's true. And even coming from parang okay, so coming from like a Christian perspective, like okay, accept that we are all broken people. We all have flaws and all that, and we're not really. I mean, we are supposed to grow.
Mm-hmm.
We are supposed to heal and be healed people,
Exactly.
and we do help each other heal.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not on us to fix everyone. Diba? We're not supposed to fix everyone, quote unquote. So there's a little difference of mindset na I will help you heal and I will heal versus I'm gonna fix you.
Exactly.
It's different,
Mhm.
Like we can get a bit deep into that, pero basically iba siya. Basically iba.
Yeah. And basically, like as we look to it,
Yeah.
we find that we are worthy of being loved because God loved us first.
Amen.
Yeah.
And so it's basically that idea that Victor also needs to be able to comprehend in order to
Mm.
heal. I guess is the word.
Yeah,
I
like
think
hindi kailangan like, oh, you don't need to be fixed just to be worth loving, to be
Mm.
worth being a person.
and I think this
You
is
don't need that.
also where the concept where you will never truly be able to uh parang you will always be constantly finding something to heal yourself until you realize that what you actually need is God's love to fill in the gaps in your heart, diba, the hole in your heart. Si God lang naman, sabi nga nila that who's that scientist that said that parang everybody has a God-shaped vacuum
Hole
in
in the
their
heart.
hearts that only God can fill, diba? So in a sense ganun parang si Victor constantly looking for approval of himself because he feels like he is less than a man because of all his physical flaws, and yet parang not realizing that people actually like him for
Care
who
for
he
him.
is, love him for who he is regardless. But sometimes we don't see it until we also see God loves us for who we are, diba?
Mm. Okay, Vince, down to you, sir.
Oh, wait lang. Inom na ako ng gamot, sorry.
Okay, I'll take my point. Ikaw na mag-end. So sa akin naman, si Mel. Actually, I have a little challenging point. Medyo challenging for me yung kay Mel because in Mel's case, I feel like most of her problems hindi siya it's not that wala siyang flaws, no.
She has a lot.
She has flaws naman talaga. She was I don't know. She was very pragmatic. She was power hungry, but not to the point na kaya yun yung parang for me, she feels like a good corporate person.
Nakakainis a good corporate person.
No, cause like okay, she wants to build her empire, but she's
But
not
not
heart, but she's not heartlessly doing it kasi.
Yeah, not at the
Like-
corpse of the people.
Yeah, she's not trying. She's like, I'm not trying to kill people. I'm just trying to invest in good people, diba? And when push came to shove, she stood up naman for the entirety of Piltover and Zaun, diba? She was against her mother manipulating and taking over everything. She would have stood up against it. Actually, nakita natin from when she was young up to when she was older, she was against the brutality and over pragmaticness of her mom.
Mm-hmm.
That's why yung criticism ng parent niya, ng mom niya, is that you're only a fox. You're always trying to be cunning, to be wily, to find your ways. But you don't have the heart of the wolf. You don't have the grit to make the sacrifices necessary to be great.
Guess who has the heart now, Mom?
But the thing is, it's not that she didn't have the heart. But it's not that she didn't have the heart. It's just that yung tolerance level niya, like I'm willing to make the sacrifice if I think it's worth it. And there's a certain degree, certain point na I'm willing to make a sacrifice if it's for this thing. Whereas her mom, si Ambessa, who has her own backstory, and we're not gonna get into that, but how to say, I guess her biggest issue din niya was yung lack of being able to overcome yung issues niya with her mom. It's parenting trauma and issues.
It's a Phil Chai problem. Ay, sorry.
Her major thing.
It's a
Common
Phil
Phil Chai
Chai
problem.
problem.
Yeah, that's good. But I mean, yeah. If I were saying she's corporate, she has her own business here in Piltover. She's a successful whatever.
An heir to the no.
Yeah. And suddenly her mom comes in and he's like, "Oh, this is a nice, fine little empire you have. Why don't we make it better?" Like, no, you don't need to fix it. Find a way
It's
to.
my empire, mother.
Actually,
you play with your.
Yeah, she had a bit of that. But of course, we find to come out that things were more complicated. Her mom was involved in some messy, dirty stuff that she happened to also be in. So parang andun yung complicatedness eh. So her problems was she had some problems of her own, but I would say that in her defense, most of the problems were caused by dealing with her family's unnecessary baggage.
Yeah.
And she didn't settle it properly with her mom. I think that's the
Yeah,
problem.
that's that's what I'm willing to give that to. I mean, I don't like her as a character, pero I'm giving it to Mel.
Yeah, I mean there are more interesting characters, quote unquote. But yeah, yeah.
I think Mel as a character who is, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, not originally a League of Legends character, uh,
Mm,
Yes.
no.
is going to be an interesting character to develop. I think ano siya, parang she came off a little bit bland to me at the beginning. And at some point parang gusto mo lang yung chest ni ano eh. Yung abs ni Jace eh.
Something like that, yes.
Gano'n yung dating niya sa akin sa season 1 eh. But as
So I just annoyed with Mel kasi he broke. She was the reason naghiwala yung favorite favorite bros ko eh.
anyway,
Anyway,
going back. So, but then parang as we see in season 2, and then she has to grapple with her her position in Piltover, her relationship with with her mom,
mommy dearest.
and realizing parang the power that she has been gifted and using it for the right reasons. Sobrang makikita mo yung parang there's a depth of maturity that she now has to face and be Also, I have to say, badass pa rin yung ginawa niya kay Maddie. So, plus points to Mel.
Yeah. I was also gonna say
yeah.
what I like about Mel also, especially in the universe, is I find
Right.
that the way that she, her brand of pragmatism and her brand of like how she deals with problems is something I find that in the universe as we're given is unique to her.
Yes.
Like, parang like the way people deal with things, na appreciate ko how she does things, especially when it's like put alongside how everyone else does things. Like,
In a
na
sense,
appreciate ko lang siya. It's a good contrast.
I think I agree with you in that, in a sense that when you look at how the nobles in the council are, they're full of bias and yung parang
Very typical.
and very condescending. Then you look at you look at the Zonites and how a lot of them are so ready to just fight and hindi sila as level-headed as Vander. Alam mo yun, parang, and, we see Ambessa as well, the mother niya na parang her mother couldn't be any more different than Mel, di ba? So, you look at Mel, iba yung, she tends to keep a level head at all times. She tends to, not always, but she tends to keep a level head all times. She tends to be the one that's the voice of reason, rather than,
Also, another thing I was gonna say is like I appreciate as a contrast is that like you see like for example how we have sympathy for Jinx and Vi being asked the way they were like they grew up parents and all
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
but in a way you can see that in some regards Mel's also the same man like limited yung parang how do you call this care that she received from parenting and in a way she's technically like an
Exiled pa
immigrant
nga
in
siya.
a nation
Yeah.
because her mom was off being a general elsewhere, diba? So it's like a lot of it she achieved technically on her own. You don't really see her have like much family backing, so to speak. A lot of the support she has are from other people, like allies that she's created for herself in order to rise to this position. So parang dun din ako na sobrang nakapag-build ng respect for her, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So, Vince, ready ka na pitch your character?
yeah, I mean it's Echo. We
It's
discussed a lot.
Echo.
We've discussed a lot about Echo, so
That's true. But how would you want... Okay, Prime Echo, how would you help him, mature or heal or whatever? High note, parang help him to be a
I
better...
personally think he already had the best way to with what he had. Kasi parang I don't think I could add anything more to what the show has given.
Given how what he got na. No?
Yeah. Yun na yun eh. He had the mentor who, did things that and who is up in the air, who was captured. He had a mentor who was captured He knew the importance of having people near him. He has kept up with what's happening with everything. So parang I don't think we can add anything more to what Echo can
Expect,
learn. Yeah.
But, okay, a different perspective na lang. Given the way that he was left at the end of Arcane Season 2, what do you think is there next for him? Like, what direction is there for Echo
What
now?
should he continue to take? What path should he go?
Okay, he can be the next Vander.
Huh.
But then, how would that work given that...
He can be the next
technically,
Vander.
that's Savica already, isn't it?
No,
Kasi parang
Savica
siya yung representation ng Zaun.
Yeah, but Savica may have the seat. Yun nga sabi nga ni JB kanina. Savica may have the seat, but Vander had the respect of the people eh.
He has
Wouldn't
the
that be
heart.
problematic though, to have that as different
No.
people?
Kasi no.
Kasi you might create a Silco Vander situation na naman.
Pero
No,
kasi, no, we're
Hindi
not.
hindi rin ganun si Echo eh.
Hindi naman ganun katigas sa ulo ni Echo na his arc showed that he needed to consider other perspectives and other aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what he experienced in alternate Arcane, what he has currently, would allow him to be mature enough to accept the fact that somebody needs to be in the council, pero somebody also needs to be on the streets. So,
Can I present a counterpoint?
go?
Do you not think he has the opportunity to be the next Heimerdinger?
No. The Piltovers are still too immature to accept him as the new Heimerdinger.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say that there represents an opportunity for him to mentor other people
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
As,
That's
as,
what I
a,
mean.
as a mentor, yes. But as what Heimerdinger represented in the council, no.
I don't actually
Kaya nga.
remember what he represented in the council.
Kaya
Kasi
nga,
in my head,
kaya
I'm thinking of the conversation between alternate world Powder and Echo, where he tells he tells Powder that she limits herself, that he imagines something greater for her, and in a way, parang ganun din yung nakikita ko kay Echo. It's
Yeah.
di ba he was hiding away? So why do you not share your talents with the world? So
No.
if you
That's
ask
the thing.
me, I feel like it's an opportunity for him to mentor then other people who to create.
Yeah, kasi when you asked a while ago about can he be the new Heimerdinger? As a mentor, yes. And I think that's what he wants to do moving forward. Pero at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, he can't be the Heimerdinger in the council kasi that's already Savica. So kumbaga, the dynamic
Heimerdinger was a representation
politically speaking.
So
Si Heimer na lang.
Wait,
Okay,
John.
go.
So kung ano yung position dapat ni Silco at Vander is the one being fulfilled by Savica and Echo. Kasi 'di ba, Silco never had the heart of the people, but he had the capacity to do politics. So, yung position ni Savica ngayon, yung political position in the country as a there. Tapos nun, you have Echo that's considered the new heart of Zaun, and he needs to be in Zaun. So kumbaga, kung ano yung it's a reflection of dapat yun
I think
and Evander.
I think
Yun yung
I was looking more towards like Heimerdinger is a professor kasi.
Yeah. So
primarily yun siya. So,
hindi, kaya nga I'm leading to that. Kaya nga he needs to be in Zaun kasi he needs to guide the new generation. Gets mo? So the new generation, he's going to need the new. Pero and he can't do that if he's in the council. So, kumbaga,
I wasn't talking about council.
Yeah, I know you were not talking about the council, but I'm just connecting everything in such a way. That's why that Savica is in the Echo is in Zaun, and how it's correlated to ano yung dapat na ideal set Vander if they actually talk properly. And I think Echo is mature enough has learned enough to know that not to, di ba kasi na-mention mo rin kayo na wouldn't it be problematic if may dalawang quote-unquote leaders on? I don't think so. Kasi si Echo and si Sevica have learned that not talking to each other would cause problems. So I'm trying to holistically connect na parang yes, he needs to be there as a mentor, and Sevica needs to be in the council to represent Zaun. So kumbaga yun yung dynamic nila at the end.
Okay. Yeah, I think yun nga, slightly different focuses eh. So when Eri was talking about Heimer, your focus was on Heimer as a teacher mentor. Whereas when we think of Heimer kasi, we also think of him as a political leader, not only as a teacher mentor. So there's also that angle kasi Heimer was technically the leader of Piltover previously. Like before they rejected him from the council, despite his attitude, siya yung pinaka parang respected leader ng council in terms of academic kasi he's been there since its founding. He's the only guy who's been there he actually founded one of the people who founded Piltover, I believe, in the lore of Arcane.
Yeah.
He was there when they founded the city. Hence him having that kind of weight.
Kaya tuloy feeling ko if he didn't position, he would have mentored Jace and Victor more properly. Kung hindi lang siya leader sa...
But I kind of get where Vince is coming from, where kasi there is a vacuum for a leader in Zaun that is not necessarily quote unquote leader, pero yung he's the community head, yung parang where the people look up to. May vacuum kasi wala na si Vander, and no one has really been able to fill that position, no. So parang yes, si Vika is a strong si Vika kasi may how would you say, may political will.
Pero may political will siya, pero wala siyang charisma.
Wala siyang charisma.
Yes.
Wala siyang influence to the people. I see that parang si Echo becomes like more of a community leader in the way that he started the Firelights. He can change the Firelights into a group that actually helps the community. And then parang it helps improve the community. Parang siyang NGO, ganon. Parang magiging ganon yung Firelight. As opposed to and leave the politics away from, parang kumbaga sa politics side, hayaan mo si Civica, she knows what she's doing. She's been doing it for a long time. She knows what she's doing, and she's there to represent the overall needs,
the welfare of Zaun.
So kung may mga votation for any kind of policies, she's there to protect the welfare zone despite the looks of the nobles on the council.
Kahit na medyo tenuous at best yung position niya, but still may representation eh.
Yeah, they can't ignore them na.
So yun sa akin.
Okay. Well, we got
Sobrang
you're
late,
like,
guys.
oh, Echo is done, but apparently there's a lot more to talk about Echo, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think
For tonight.
Yeah, I think just to recap really is that what do you call that? The series Arcane is such a deep it's such a deep well of stories.
As you can see, ang dami na nga nating back and forth eh.
Baggages. Na parang it's such a nice parang way to look at that, even though ito lahat ng mga pinagdadaanan ng mga tao, it can all be traced back to things parang eternal eh. In the sense that parang everybody needs a good community. The Bible says nga, diba, parang bad company corrupts good morals, but at the same time the Bible says that we should always meet together and not forget it as the habit of some, so that we can encourage one another and build up each other. And ang galing lang na parang we can see that na parang a lot of times, many times, the characters in this series could have just stopped muna before reacting. So that they could have actually made proper responses, because a lot of the circumstances and a lot of the things that happen is the result of bad decisions. And bad decisions kasi na hindi pinag-isipan at hindi na-process.
Hindi nila pinag-usapan.
Exactly. And so I think it's really, really important to have communication and to have the right community that you can discuss these things with an open mind. No?
Speaking of the right community,
Yes, speaking of the right
Oh my
community. Thanks for the segue, bro.
Plug ourselves, of
Yeah,
course.
so that's what why Level Up exists. No, this is the community. We exist so that we can reach out to other, encourage one another, and especially point people to God. No, because at the end of the day, our guiding morals, no, our morality, our ethics, has to have a basis. No, hindi pwedeng mangyari na walang basis yung morals natin. And that's where God comes in. No, and we can see that like in Arcane, when there are no morals, things go things go to yes to the crapper.
things go kaboom.
Things
So,
go wild. Places.
So if you are looking for a community of gamers,
People become
and
robots.
That's true.
If you're looking for a community of gamers and geeks who want to encourage one another, then you should join us. We are on Facebook, and we have a community page, and we are actually active on the chat on Level Up, Level Up Game Nights, and we are also on Discord. So
Yes.
somebody can post the link of the Discord page in the chat box. So,
Especially if you like conversations like this, we have conversations
That's
like this
true.
all the time. So you want to continue this conversation, you want to join in, come join us on Discord, on Facebook.
yes.
This happens a lot randomly
Yeah.
on our Discord and stuff. So
And
yeah,
no-
if you want to take a deeper look into life and get to understand more things, we'll be happy to talk to you.
Yes.
Your
And-
your individuality is appreciated here.
Or kung
Very
gusto
much.
nyo lang magkagulo.
And if you're just bored, you want to play games, we do that too.
Yeah.
Of course, yes, we do play games like
do.
Wild Rift.
And we
League
do
of Legends.
watch parties as well.
Or Pokemon Pocket.
And we have cats.
All Riot games.
And we have food.
Not all, John. Nobody's playing LOR with me.
Wow.
Well,
LOR.
I stopped playing
Legend of
LOR.
Runeterra.
I will take a look at it.
Hindi, no, it's in it's a twilight stage na, so it's not doesn't really matter anymore.
Doesn't really matter anyway.
I'm like,
It has pretty
Arvin
cards.
plays Legends of Runeterra, Vince.
Huh?
Pwede mo siya kausapin. Si Arvin, naglalaro niyan.
Yeah, ano kung
So,
But instead of LOR might be replaced by the upcoming trading
TCG.
card game
Yeah.
this
that
is
Riot is releasing. So we'll see.
this is Reverse Hearthstone.
Reverse
So-
Hearthstone.
Yeah, kasi what before we close for added info lang sa viewers natin.
Mm,
Before Hearthstone, there was what you call WoW TCG.
that's
yes,
true.
actually.
So they had WoW TCG first before Hearthstone, and then
We actually have
they discontinued the WoW TCG,
to do
and
hard.
then Hearthstone was created. So
But,
it's a
pero
reverse
actually, I like WoW TCG better, to be honest.
one. Anyway,
Well-
guys.
Anyway, done is done.
Alright.
Yes.
So with that being said, we want to see you soon, and see you next year for our next podcast. Bye-bye.
See you next year. Happy holidays,
Happy
everyone.
holidays. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Merry
Merry Christmas.
Choo-choo.
Oh.
Yeah.